There's never been a better time to start planning your career's trajectory. With LSU's online engineering programs, you can equip yourself with the skills to move forward in your career. Their degrees are 100% online and designed for working professionals balancing life's responsibilities. LSU Online offers multiple engineering degrees and certificates with focuses in industrial, civil, healthcare, petroleum, and transportation. They also offer affordable flat-rate tuition nationwide. That's just one of the many reasons U.S. News ranks LSU Online as one of the best online programs for a master's in engineering. Visit online.lsu.edu/podcast to learn more and receive a code to waive the application fee.
This is Problem Solved, the IISE podcast, where we talk to industrial and systems engineers about their work, ideas, and solutions.
Welcome to Problem Solved, the IISE podcast. I'm Michael Hughes. Today we welcome Sprint Ray's CEO Amir Mansouri and Director of Operations Kaz Takeda to discuss how their IISE-laden team is disrupting dentistry with digital options that 3D print smiles right there in the office. Kaz and Amir, good morning. How are you folks doing out? And is it sunny California or rainy?
Good morning, Mike. Good morning. Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty warm here. Blessed by the warm weather. Everything is good. How are you doing?
Good morning, Michael.
Doing pretty good. Kaz is one of my favorite people with IISE. He's been involved with us for a very long time. And I've got a couple of industrial and systems engineers here with us, Y'all are with Sprintway, which does dental implants. And looking at your
we do dental 3D printing.
Dental 3D printing, which is the entire point of this episode, is that they're not implants anymore. Yeah. Looking at y'all's C-suite, you have a bevy of industrial and systems engineers. Did you set out to create your company with an industrial engineering focus, or is that just because, Amir, those are the people in your network? Because after all, everybody knows IE should be restricted to the shop floor, right?
I mean, that's a very good observation. We're pretty much, I think, the only company that I know around us from my network who has a dedicated IE team. And the size of our IE team grows as much as the size of the R&D software hardware is growing. And sometimes I'm telling Kaz, you have more people in your team than I have in the software team. that is fascinating to me. And back to how it happened, I guess I'm a PhD in industrial engineering. So it's not by accident. I can tell you that.
Gotcha. That was a plan then to have a heavy ISE focus, so you have the operational knowledge.
Yeah, well, we get things done, and especially with an entrepreneurial company like ours, that's just just a rocket ship to growth. There's the traditional IEs of being on a shop floor. That's not us. So, we're here to deal with all of the evolving issues and challenges that are coming up and the growth. So we think scalable, and we go in and block and tackle, help fix things on and move on to something else. So we may have a few industrial engineers here, but again, we're in customer service, fulfillment, warehousing. We're working right now with HR on different processes to help them out. And as we fix them, we move on. And fundamentally, probably my job is to put ourselves out of business, or the industrial engineers out of business, I should say. Not that as we get things done.
Yeah, you don't want to be telling your boss you're going to put the place out of business, Kaz. That's probably not a good thing to do. Well, Kaz, give us an example, say in customer service, where you've used the IE focus of your team to resolve an issue and move on, whereas a traditional customer service organization would have had that issue linger.
That's a good question. That the mindset we took in was to understand that the customer service is the voice of our customer, and the data would say that if you looked at how long the calls are, when the calls are coming, that you would come up with an algorithm to figure out what your labor would be, and we kind of threw that out. So we still use the data. But we're taking it as a different model, where we look at it from the customer experience. and understanding that average means half the time you fail. So instead of taking what I think most industry partners would say was the average of call time and when calls are handling, we looked at it from a higher level, higher percentages. So we looked at a much higher percentile to understand what would we feel comfortable that a dentist, because they have a patient in a chair, or they're very busy trying to take care of their patients, trying to serve them. So that was acceptable. For us, we wanted to model it that we could pick up on a third ring, be able to address it, and we've been quite successful at it. That's actually, our marketing partners will tell us that a big attribute of why people choose SprintRay is because they feel that we're paying attention to them and we take care of any issues that they might have really promptly.
Yeah, because if you've got a dental office on the end of the customer service line, they've got me in the chair. They're sticking one of your 3D printed crowns in. They run into an issue. They certainly don't want to call and have customer service say, yeah, we'll get back to you tomorrow.
100%. That's something we realized along the way, Michael, that we're on the hook to make sure that every single patient is receiving a good treatment using our 3D printer. And when I was brainstorming the idea of with Cause, and I said, Cause, imagine when you were at Disney, you are on the hook to make sure every single kid is having fun. How tough of a job you would have. And this is what we do. And ever since we started to go heavy IE in the customer service, it was a day and night different. A year ago, Cause, when you joined, remember, we had customer service. We had a lot of fires. We had a lot of problems. I mean, the averages, as Cause mentioned, was an area that we all looked at average calls and we staffed up for the number of average and calls coming in. Now it's one of our strengths and we're very proud of it.
That's great. So Amir, give me a rundown of all of the 3D printing dental services that y'all provide. So I'm a dentist. I'm out here. What can you do for me?
So the first kind of entry level service and application is just printing dental models. And I have them here. I'm going to show it to you, Michael. Traditionally, you go to a dental office, they put a piece of, I don't know, you those uncomfortable impressions in patient's mouth. You got to bite on it, hold it there. Then they're going to pour a stone and gypsum. They're going to carve it out. It's a casting process. I always say that we're 2021, we're using casting in a dental office. They're chiseling things. So this was the first disruptive things that 3D scan the teeth. There are 3D scanner devices that you can scan the teeth in a couple of minutes and then print them. This is the first entry level application that resonates with every doctor. The next application that over years we developed is night guards, creating night guards. We're all grinding our teeth, different time of our lives. Pandemic actually had a big effect on people grinding their teeth due to stress, due to bad news, back and forth. And we heard a lot from our doctors that people are breaking teeth more in the past 6 months, more than they've been breaking in the past 6 years, basically. So things like that, again, night guards, 3D printed night guard when patient is sitting there. Crown and bridges, you mentioned that. This was something that was a dream 4 years ago. Now it's happening. You can 3D print crowns in the office. We can 3D print dentures. We can 3D print replacement dentures for patients. We can 3D print retainers and aligners. So, and it's ever increasing. By the more advances that we have in material science, we're unlocking new applications.
Yeah, because I'm getting ready to get a crown replaced. And I remember the stuff that they put in your mouth. I think the scientific term I use for it is gunk. And that's about what it tastes like, no matter what flavoring. Yep. The idea of waltzing into an office, lying in a chair for a couple of minutes, having them do a 3D scan, and within the matter of a day, less than a day, not even having to come back to the office a second time, having that sucker go in, that's appealing to a patient.
Absolutely. And then you would not go back to the previous dentist with older technology that you wait 3 weeks to get a crown. And when you get it, it doesn't fit. You gotta wait another 2 weeks. And we all have had these stories. And this is the future of dentistry.
So why did you pick dentistry and the mouth as the focus for this particular business because this is a startup and it's going really well from everything that I hear. I'm excited about it. Kaz is excited about it. I mean, it's not a lot of people who will leave the happiest place on earth to come work for a startup. So you had to have something to sell him. Why not, widgets or beer steins or pizza or whatever else they're printing with 3D printers these days?
That's a very good question. And when we went live in Kickstarter back in 2015, which was our foundation of our company, we had demand from across industries, from engineers, designers, character designers, to dentists, to dental labs. We had customers from Disney who bought one of our printers early on to do character design and prototyping for the latest Lion King movie that came out. And we sold printers to Lockheed Martin. We sold printers to the Marvel Studios. We were prototyping Spider-Man characters. It was fun. They were all fun industries, and none of them resonated the way dentistry did. In all of those, our tool was good for them. But it was incremental impact. But dentistry was disruptive. And that really resonated with us, that we're in an industry that we're totally disrupting the way this industry is functioning now and will be functioning in the future. That piece was very strong with all of us early days. And the more we work with doctors, dentists, the more we felt the sense of purpose and sense of impact, that we're giving a tool to someone that is delivering a better dental care, better oral care to a patient. And that really resonated the more. And the more we put energy behind it, the more we got momentum. And at some point in the time, we said we're a 100% dental focused company. And that became essentially our destiny.
Sounds like a great destiny. And I would have never thought of 3D printing teeth, to be honest with you. So it's good we had a couple of smart IEs out there thinking along those lines. Did you have anybody influence you toward that? Any particular conversations you had with dentists or, friends of yours who had to have teeth work done, where the light shined on you that this is where the disruption is? What gave that spark in your mind that this is where SprintRay can make a real splash and a huge improvement in the lives of both dentists and patients?
The early inspiration of dentistry came from a dental lab that it was a local dental lab that bought one of our printers. And 3D printing existed in dental labs for probably a decade. They've been one of the tools that they've been using. What we did differently was to put the printer in the practice office to essentially another IE mind. Why do you send everything to a centralized place, which is very inefficient? And then that centralized place will produce parts and then you send it back to the doctors. And a lot of times doctors, they have people driving cars around to go drop off a crown, drop off an eye guard. This is a dental lab model and very inefficient. And it doesn't make sense. What if we put the 3D printer in a dental practice and produce on demand whenever you need it, just-in-time technology, just in time? And that was the early inspiration that we saw. So our early experience with dental labs gave us the confidence that our product is really good for dentistry. It's accurate. It solves a problem. And then watching these inefficiencies, speaking with a lot of visionary doctors who helped us. Again, we were experts in 3D printing. We were not experts in dentistry. And we met visionary dentists along the way who helped us, gave us the problem that we solved. And it worked out. 4 years ago, Michael, I had to beg doctors to look into 3D printing in a dental practice. I'm like, for what? What am I going to do? When we look back, it's an essential tool in a dental practice. And we have doctors that tell us they can't live without it. They cannot practice without this anymore. They're very reliant on it.
That's the traditional IISE, breaking down barriers and breaking down silos, because IEs aren't necessarily experts in everything they work in and all the problems. They're experts at looking at a problem and learning from people what their problems are and how tools and technologies and new techniques and processes can fix those problems. So you've broken down that silo, and you've also got the whole this is assembly line stuff. Okay, kids, Bring the work to the worker. Okay. The workers are in the dental office. They're not in a lab 300 miles away.
Exactly. And that was the model I worked out. And to me, the IISE superpower is to look at a problem holistically, then go deep and solve it, then come back. I think this is a unique characteristics of the IE training. And that was, to me, was one of the gifts that I have thanks to the IE education, that I could balance this holistic view, see the problem from 3,000 feet above, then go deep, solve it, then come back. Mm-hmm. And that balance of go deep and come back, again, I think is something that only IEs can do.
Yeah,
right. Don't get stuck in that detail. You got to go back and see the problem holistically.
Yeah, we're really good at also, because we'll hear problems, right? As IEs, we'll hear we have a problem, we need this fixed, and we hear that all the time. And probably 80 to 85% of the problems that me and my team have dealt with aren't really the problem. It's a symptom. I mean, to them, it's a problem. That particular user, it's a problem. But when we look at it, as opposed to playing whack-a-mole, where you just take whatever they thought hit it, and then it goes away, but then it comes back again, and who knows, it comes back again even uglier. Is that we look at it, we'll analyze it, we'll fix it. Maybe it's a Band-Aid on it, but then we keep looking at it. We pull the system back. We look horizontally to find out, okay, was this something before the issue or after the issue? And that's what I think makes the big difference between having an industrial engineer tackling it as opposed to other disciplines.
So how is it working in this particular office, Kaz, as opposed to working at Disney?
It's interesting because at Disney, my job and my team's job was to create smiles. I mean, fundamentally, and we just moved that from creating smiles to a guest going through the park and enjoying a churro and going on a ride to literally the patient. So have a smile on your face. It's very inspirational in that. What sets Disney apart from other industrial engineers is that you're not working for a theme park. You're working to change somebody's experience. So when they walk out, that they're happy, and that's what makes it an amazing opportunity for people wanting to join the Disney family. Coming into SprintRay, first of all, SprintRay is a family. He said, coming into SprintRay, I was adopted. There is no. Actually, I say this. The term brother is serious. When I come into the office and Amir or Erich or, the others they say, hey, brother, how you doing today? I mean, it wasn't just a token of like a slang. I mean, it's a family type of stuff. And again, when we deal with everything, we're literally, one of the inspirations of when I joined it is the power of a smile is amazing. That when somebody has bad teeth, they're embarrassed and it hurts their ego and such, or even worse, if they're especially a third world country. With this technology, we're changing people's lives, where they're able to smile again, where they're able to eat again, and it's just really inspirational to be kind of part of that. And again, for industrial engineers, Michael, you've known me for decades, and some of the stories I would tell about Disney, and my team would tell about Disney, weren't the stories that you would have thought. I mean, it would be talking about how we saved water, or how we increased, how we reduced trash, or how we improved reliability of something. It's not like that people get, I created this magic pixie dust. Well, in some ways, it was still magic pixie dust. It was just dealing it so that the guest would have a wonderful experience. With SprintRay, our team is doing the same thing. He said, we're helping to break down friction points within the dentistry industry. We're helping to break down obstacles within our own organization. Like, how can we make things better, faster, more reliable? And those pieces, again, are creating great positive experience for people. So we're creating smiles in a different way, including be able to print them.
That's a great line. I love that, printing smiles. So do you think that, Amir, that's the attraction to getting all of these established IEs to leave these high profile companies like Disney and Lockheed and come work for you, is the ability to transplant smiles onto people's faces worldwide?
It is definitely one important factor, and it resonates with pretty much everyone that we talk on. We invite them to join us. And on top of that, being part of something disruptive is very, very exciting. Everyone wants to be part of something exciting that is disrupting in the dentistry, disrupting an industry completely. The startup vibe that we have, the open communication culture that essentially you can communicate, talk, collaborate, everyone is safe. That has been another good factor that help us attract talent. And it's all about talent and people. No matter we have the best printer in the world, we need the best idea in our mind. Without the right talent, you just can't implement it.
You're right about that. Before I ever learned about industrial engineering, there was a show on the History Channel called Man, Moment, and Machine or something like that. And I didn't realize it at the time, but essentially that show kind of described industrial engineering. You've got your humans, you've got your widgets, and you've got to put them together at a particular point in time for everything to work. And that's what IISEs really do. And it seems like that's what y'all are doing here with SprintRay.
Absolutely.
And there's actually one product that we have, the newest product is called the Pro Wash, which is, who would have thought that something that is designed to actually clean things would be a disruptor? So in the printing industry, traditionally, when you would print something, you're printing out of resin. So the dentist, the next step in the process flow would be to clean it. And that's usually rubbing alcohol and maybe a toothbrush or an ultrasonic cleaner. It takes a while. It's kind of yucky and messy. And it takes time. With the Pro Wash, it was, again, really pushing the envelope of how can we make things different. And if you ever take a look at our website and look at it, it's very cool. It's basically a drone propeller that creates a vortex with rubbing alcohol that this blows off all the debris and such. And then it doesn't just do it once. It actually has two chambers. So you blow it off once, it lets it settle down, and then a cleaner version of rubbing alcohol blows it off again the second time. So for the dentist, as opposed to them spending a dental assistant for 20, 30 minutes to be able to deal with it, and it's not, again, a very glamorous part of the role. They literally just take it off the printer, stick it in it, hit a button, and walk away, and it come back and it's perfect. So they can't live without this thing now.
That's cool. That's kind of like, call it maybe the Roomba for cleaning 3D printing appliances. You press a button, you walk away, and you come back and it's done.
Yes. And that was another IE mind that we looked at the workflow of a doctor in dental practice. Okay, we solved the 3D printing in a dental office, bring the manufacturing closer to the site, basically problem. But as a side effect, we created other inefficiencies. And that inefficiency, once you're done with a 3D printed crown, it's not the end of the work. Now you got to wash it. Now you got to cure it. And how can we streamline it? Then we looked at different solutions, and we came up with this. As Kaz said, who would have thought a washing system would be disruptive and people leave glaring testimonials for us, and it worked out. And I think the crux of it is because we solved the pain point throughout that workflow, throughout that process, and they're really appreciative of that.
I kind of like that. We would interesting because one of the dentists actually gave us a comment about our printer. So you see, those who can take that snapshot behind it, it's a very pretty printer. And what our dentists would call, basically, I think the quote that they gave us was, if Apple and Tesla married and created a printer, it would be a SprintRay. So Michael, are you saying now that I guess if Roomba were to make a dental appliance, it would be our Pro Wash?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if I'm a dentist out there and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm interested, what's the process and how long and what kind of costs am I talking about to move from the old 20th century version of implanting crowns and dental prosthetics and getting to the new 2021 version where everybody needs to be?
So I would position it that if you're a dentist listening to this podcast, you have to take a serious look at digital dentistry as a whole, not just 3D printing part of it. And digital dentistry has tremendously improved and became more accessible and affordable. And the entry point of digital dentistry is getting an intraoral scanner to digitize the teeth. The first step is to find a 3D scanning solution, and they vary different pricing, and depending on their budget, they can get into the world of digital dentistry. And we're not providing that, by the way. We're on the design and manufacturing part of the digital dentistry. And this will give them overall the digital dentistry benefits, a lot better patient experience, same day visit. Back to IE mind, you got to make it efficient. Why should I go back for 3 visits to get a simple crown? So it's significant improvement in the patient experience. Significant improvement in the profitability of office because you're doing the same treatment with less visits. Significant improvement in the cost reduction, essentially. In every one of these procedures, when you put them into practice, the cost also drops by order of magnitude, by zero, when they produce them themselves. So that control over the manufacturing process of dental appliances, that control over patient experience, that customer delight. If I'm a dentist, you have to jump on board or get disrupted by the other dentists who are doing this, competing with them.
Do you ever get any pushback from people who you hear a lot of tradition versus the disruptors, and there is a segment of people out there, they're the ones that they want to grow all their own food and slaughter their own pigs and, be self-sufficient. And do you ever get any pushback from people and dentists like the old ways are fine? Why do we have to jump on board with the new?
We do to some degrees, especially doctors who've been practicing and their system work and they're comfortable. They're very resistant to change. Why would you do that? And they're very worried. It's not about the cost. It's about disruption to their flow and rhythm of business. And we found that if you make the technology easier for them, if you really address all of those concerns of disruptions, and this is not going to be messing up your daily workflow, the majority of them will adapt the technology and will essentially jump on board. We are past the early adopters at this point. We're past those geeks and techies. We're dealing with I don't know the adoption curve. You guys all know early majority or late majority who are not techie, but they see the benefit that they have to stay more relevant. Their impact should be magnified more with their patients. And so they're jumping on board, and we're helping them, teaching them, providing them training, on-site installation, hands-on training, sending them to the courses. So we got their back to make sure they're not failing throughout this journey.
Gotcha. So if I'm an old school dentist and I want to get to the new school, how long does it take me from beginning to learn this process and getting this technology to where I can put a 3D printed crown into my patient's mouth?
Process of choosing technology is stressful for them. So that I would give a week or two for them to choose the right piece of technology with their budget, with their practice. And when the system is added, I would add another couple of weeks of training, a few cases, test cases to get it started. I think a month is reasonable. And we have done a lot of work to de-skill a lot of stuff in the way, whether with our software experience. We added design services, Michael, beginning of 2021, and to add more detail to that. When we were looking at the workflow, we figured, okay, once they bought the 3D scanner, now someone has to design a crown. And designing that crown is as frightening to doctors as adding a new technology, because they have to learn a CAD software. They have to spend time, first purchase it, then learn it, then do it per case. So we added the whole design services that we get the intraoral scan, we design the appliance for them, then we airdrop it to the printer for them. So we de-skilled that design part for them. That has been a huge improvement over the adoption. So, Kaz, what do you think? I think a month for them is good timing to get it started.
And that's complicated stuff on some of the simpler things is if they have that, if they're already using this oral scanner, so they kind of have some type of a point of view on that. And once they get that oral scanner and they get a basic training we provide a basic training for our printers, which is about 2 hours. And what design services they could literally port in their first model that they already had through a scan and hit go. And then there's a learning curve, of course, of understanding how to clean it and process the things. But some of the dentists are probably in the dental systems that will pick this thing up within hours for the first one. If they get themselves confident, of course, then they're going to be, they're going to spend more time in learning it. It's interesting because one of the advantages that we have at SprintRay is that all of our sprinters can actually have or take home a 3D printer. And we encourage them to print and work at home. because the biggest part about, I think the biggest learning for 3D printing is when you get a failure on a 3D print. Because you did, like my first 3D print was Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda completely failed. And I went back and I go, what happened? What did I do wrong? And he goes, oh, you needed to build support struts. The way you did it was if you laid it on Baby Yoda on the side, it would have been fine. And I'm going, oh, and then they would explain like why that happened. It didn't make sense. So other than that, once you kind of get the hang of the basic stuff on it, you're off to the races.
So your first Baby Yoda came from the dark side.
It did.
As an engineer, you have the power to impact and shape the future of the world. But we know how hard it is to balance life's responsibilities with getting the education necessary to advance your career and make that impact. The engineering programs offered through LSU Online make it easy to learn at a pace and schedule that's convenient for you. Their programs are 100% online, specifically designed to be flexible for working professionals. LSU Online offers multiple engineering degrees and certificates with focuses in industrial, civil, healthcare, petroleum, and transportation. U.S. News ranks LSU Online as one of the best online programs for a master's in engineering, and with flat rate tuition offered to students nationwide, LSU Online's engineering programs are also some of the most affordable programs available. Accelerate your career growth and leave a lasting impact on the world with LSU Online. Get started by visiting online.lsu.edu/podcast to learn more and receive a code to waive the application fee.
You read about a lot of startups, and frankly, a lot of them fail. Not all of them become Apple. Not all of them become produce Macintoshes and iPhones. Not all of them become Teslas, et cetera, et cetera. What does having all these IISEs in your stable, where does that give you a benefit over other startups?
Two things, resiliency and agility. I think that kept us alive. We had a lot of failures along the way, and we tried, didn't work, tried the material, didn't work. A couple of times, never shared the story. We ran out of money. Balance was negative. You have to max out credit cards, all the typical startup stories. But two things, I think resiliency and just refusing to die and figuring out another way to fix the problem, figuring out another way to solve a problem for someone so they see value, so they pay for the product so you can get traction. And agility to change directions. Again, that holistic view that really that direction you're going doesn't make sense, and you have to make changes. And I think these are from the IE mind has helped us survive and stay alive. And I think to me, success is a result of staying alive in a startup environment long enough. So if you survive long enough, something will happen. And that has happened to us. We saw a lot of inflection points, and one thing led to another and brought us to where we are today.
Well, I don't know of any startup that doesn't have a story somewhere where they ran out of money and needed to go to credit cards. Even Robert Johnson, the founder of BET, he did his first movie. I think he put $100,000 on credit cards. His movie did well, thank God for him. Everybody's watched that channel. So yeah, definitely no shame there. But a lot of people, they'll sink costs into something and it doesn't work. So they just need to pour more money into it and then it'll work. But you're saying that the IE mind let y'all look at places where that weren't working and say, we need to quit going there. Let's go over in this other direction.
I mean, that's exactly what happened. A lot of times directions we were going didn't make financial sense. You get vested into it. You put more money, the ability to let go and switch. For us, the other industries, we tried some of them. And back when our office was in downtown LA, if I tell the story about that, and I was working with jewelers back then in downtown LA to establish 3D printing in their workflow. That was exactly 2016-15 time we were trying to figure out what industry to focus. And I was making daily trips to the jewelry district to give them a new 3D printed piece that they can cast. And again, we pivoted. We said this is not going to work. I mean, this industry is different. They're not going to adopt it. The size of the market's small. Just totally forget about it. And our competition was putting a lot of energy behind it. So we let that go, and we put more focus behind other industries back then, which was engineering and dentistry, which eventually we picked dentistry.
You know, that's interesting. This is one of the things that, coming from a newspaper background, I used to have to ask 10, 15 questions to get 2 or 3 answers. But Amir, you just answered my next question, which was, give me an example of where y'all pivoted and changed and let something go. And the jewelry industry was the answer already. So
yes.
What was it about the jewelry industry that just made it not a go for a 3D printing disruption?
A couple of things. The material we had, it just wasn't working because I think that was the biggest reason. They cast out of, they have a lost wax technique that they pour all the rings and all you see essentially, which they make a mold of the ring, and then they do investment casting, then they burn out the wax or melt away, then they pour the ring. That's the process. So we were trying to replicate a 3D printed wax, and the base chemistry wasn't right. And no matter how much we tried to make our material behave like wax, it didn't work. So that was the first thing. The second thing, the entire jewelry industry is shrinking. And 80-90% of the market are 1-man, 2-man shops in a small office. I was just visiting them and envisioning that if I had a high-tech technology equipment here, it's not going to be even received. These are different environments, different vibes. I never saw a 3D printer being successful in a small shops that I was seeing. So the combination of that, size of the market was shrinking. The solution wasn't right for them. They were very resistant to changing that process. Chose not to pursue that.
Amir also touched on resin. I know we didn't talk about it, but it's very important. Without the success of our resin, we produce our own resin. Also, some great talent that we work with to meet, again, the needs of our customers, our dentists, and also to predict the needs. And like, again, looking at what they're doing and their workflow and such, it goes, wow, they could use, like, say a white version of a die model, or a ceramic version of, to be able to do crowns, or, looking at other types of things, like the mouth guards you heard when we started with the story about chewing, and the liner stuff, and then sports stuff. And I mean, all these different pieces are things that dentists could do. Some like live in that world. Others kind of go, that would be nice, but I don't know what to do with that. These things called surgical guides, which is kind of crazy. But the investment that we have is we listen to what a dentist's needs are, and we have a great partner, a great team of leaders. I love Hassan. He's one of my buddies. To be able to kind of go, okay, let's see if I can do that, and that's pretty exciting, actually, because it's all about the resin. If we just only made die model, it would be a couple of things, but we can go way beyond that.
You're right, because the resin's the stuff that's going to wind up in my mouth. And if that doesn't work, all of everything that y'all have done ancillary to that to get that resin into my mouth is going to be a failure, because if it falls apart right here, I'm going to go back to the old way.
Exactly. And 3D printing is exciting. It's technology, it's hardware, it's software. But in reality, 3D printing is material science. And we're using software and hardware to form a piece of material. And if that material doesn't have the right properties, if it's not biocompatible, if it doesn't have the strength for you to chew a steak or essentially chew food, it's not going to work. So we have added significantly a lot more material PhDs to our team to just research back and forth on the material and improve and essentially develop the future of material science for dentistry.
So you're really putting, mechanical engineering because you've got printers, material science engineering because you've got material, and industrial engineering because you've got Kaz sitting right up there with a workflow. Service systems engineering as well, because you're dealing with customer service. Yeah, I guess. Is there any engineering, software engineering? Yeah. Is there any engineering that y'all aren't using? Nuclear. That's it.
Or civil, probably not too much civil engineering.
Yeah.
Although Amir's career kind of already started in the civil engineering world with building the homes.
Oh, really? Tell me about that, Amir.
Yeah, at USC, I was part of this research group that was a 3D printing additive manufacturing research group. And you might know him, Professor Baruch.
I've known stories on him. Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah, Baruch. Yeah. Baruch is one of the essentially godfathers of 3D printing. He invented many, many methods of additive manufacturing, from metal 3D printing to polymers to concrete 3D printing. He's actually coming today to our office for a visit. And I was just fortunate that I just universe planned it. I wasn't planning that. I just joined that research lab that exposed me to all of these exciting advancements. And one of the main research that Professor Krishnavis has been doing and is still active in that field was 3D printing or additive manufacturing of concrete. And the idea was, well, if you look at buildings around you, they're simple shapes. They're just cubes on top of each other. So we have robots and we can do layer by layer manufacturing, which is 3D printing. If you think about bricklaying, is a form of manual additive manufacturing. So it existed from centuries ago. So that was Baruch's idea, and he connected the dots. Now it makes sense, but at the time that he connected the dots, no one was talking about it. So my research was to work on the strength of these 3D printed structures, to see how they perform on their loads, on their different essentially conditions. So we mixed a lot of concrete. We built robots that we poured concrete into and essentially tested a lot of stuff. Very exciting times at USC.
Yeah, we've done stories on Professor Krishnavis. 3D printing on the moon using simulated Martian and lunar regolith to print structures up there. His 3D printing of houses, just a lot of cool stuff that he's done.
Absolutely. It was to me, I just came to USC, came to the country. I'm an immigrant. And then I was exposed to that much excitement and 3D printing of structures on NASA, and we're doing that. It was unbelievable to me. And that really essentially formed the foundation of my mindset that everything we do has to be disruptive. And see how disruptive Baruch is 3D printing structures on the Mars. And really helped me to craft my future. And I'm always thankful to Baruch for putting me in that path.
Well, first off, tell Baruch hello when he comes into the office today from me. Second off, welcome to America. We're happy to have you. And third off, talking about all these neat 3D printing things, what is the neatest or coolest 3D printed object that y'all own?
That's a tough question. That changes every other week. Let me see what I have behind me now. At this point, I have the Wall Street bet guy.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So it keeps changing. So this is anything that cool I have, I put on my background here. Cause has a lot of characters. Another thing, Michael, you walk in our company and we provide unlimited 3D printing to our employees. Just print. We pay for the resin. We just go through it. You go on people's desk, you see like all these characters. Someone has a collection of Nike sneakers that are printed. The other one is all Star Wars characters. The other one has type of flowers. It's very exciting. I hope we can host you to our company. And again, everyone puts the passion. Cause, what do you have?
I think, the one I really liked is a Millennium Falcon.
Cool.
So, when I was at Disney, my team was a foundation on helping to open up Star Wars land. And the Millennium Falcon was very dear. One of my dearest industrial engineers, Melanie, that was her outbreak when she worked on an attraction and it just like changed her. The Millennium Falcon is very, very detailed. And normally the print is pretty large. And I was playing with our printer and I wanted something to see if I could see a failure. So I wound up shrinking the Millennium Falcon down to, I want to say about the size of like a 50-cent piece. And it was amazing because with our printer, I mean, and those who understand 3D printing with a filament printer, there's absolutely no way it would just be a pile of peanut butter. If you take the Millennium Falcon with all the detail and the windows and the guns and the landing gear, and I shrunk it down to basically $50. And if you look at it sitting on my windowsill, it looks exactly like the Millennium Falcon. People look at it and they go, "Oh, they immediately say it's a Millennium Falcon." Well, then they look at it, it goes, "You have the windows in here. You can tell where Chewbacca would be sitting and stuff." And It's like the size of a 50-cent piece. So that was pretty impressive.
That was exciting. If audience won't see this, Michael, I'm going to show it to you. I just overlooked it. This is a 3D printed shoe.
Oh, cool.
And we just did it as a fun project, proof of concept. And we don't want to be in the shoe industry, but testing the capabilities. It's another kind of neat project. It's a very super hyper elastic material that we developed in our material science. And we just tested the limits and this shoe came out.
Cool.
Very comfortable.
Cool. I've done stories in my time here on a lot of 3D printing, from aircraft parts to now dental, not implants, dental 3D printed objects, to 3D printed pizza, which was a few years ago. I think the U.S. Army was working on that. Last question is going to be kind of a fun one. Would either of you, and I would answer yes to this, would either of you eat 3D printed food?
3D printed food. I 3D printed chocolate before.
Nice.
Yes, and it was extrusion system. It was a hobby project in the company we built with my co-founder, and the chocolate tasted very bad, but it was cool.
Well, if you can work on the taste and it tastes good, you'd try it.
Yeah.
What about you, Kaz?
Oh yeah, if Michael, you know me long enough that I eat anything. That helps explaining, and then being half Dutch and half Japanese really makes me confused because I'll have I love a rice. I'm very picky on the type of rice I like, but I also eat French fries and I dip it in mayonnaise. If I can do those two things, that would be no problem with that.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to wrap it up here unless there's something that I should have asked and left out. Amir, Kaz, thank you both so much. This has been a wonderful conversation and a lot of fun too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And one thing I'm very proud of too is interesting. We have 2 IE interns now, again, and both of our IE interns, one's from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, another one's from ASU. Both of them were introduced by us from the IISE regional conferences. So Lorenzo from ASU was basically one of the leaders of the IISE Western Regional Conference in Arizona, and he had a job already. Super dynamic young man. And when he was listening to my story about 3D printing and Sprint Ray, what I didn't know is that his mother was a dentist. So he went home and was talking to his mom about it, and like it was really cool, right? Those of you who have teenage or college age kids, whenever your kid is actually talking to you professionally, it's a pretty unique experience. And she was all excited about him looking into that, and he actually rescinded his job offer from another company and took ours. Again, taking that stuff. And the other one, Natalie from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Again, I got to meet her through IISE on one of the sessions that we hosted together, and found out that her father was a dentist and has a 3D printer, not a dental 3D printer, but just a casual 3D printer. And again, she went and talked to him, and goes, like understanding the disruptive workforce about what's going on in 3D printing, and then she's working for us now. When Amir and Erich were looking at me to consider joining the Sprint Ray family, on the way home, I was very flattered. On the way home, I called my dentist up. And I called, Dr. Richardson, and I go, "Dr. Richardson, you have a minute for me?" And he goes, "Sure." And he goes, "What do you know about 3D printing?" And he goes, "Oh," and his words were, "Any dentist who isn't on 3D printing in 5 years might also go back to pliers. It's that disruptive. There's you have to be on 3D printing to be able to do it." And then I asked him, I said, he goes, "Wow. And is there any 3D printing company that comes to mind?" He goes, "Yeah, there's this company called Sprint Ray that I saw at one of the dental shows." And he goes, "And I really like them because they understood us. I mean, other 3D printing companies, are out there, but it's like a side thing for them. And they do lots of stuff. And what I was impressed about seeing the SprintRay team is that they understood 3D printing for dentistry. They understood us, they understood our workflow, and the product was amazing. It was so fast. And that's an interesting part about Amir's technology is how fast it is. When you it's like you can punch out something in, like say, in 20 minutes, which another printer might take, an hour to do. And if you have to print out 10 of them, it would take 10 hours on their printer, and for our printer, it would still take 20 minutes. Time is irrelevant effectively. It's all about how tall it is what matters for our style of technology. So those are like two things that out of the blue. And then one more thing, I called one of my mentees. Her husband was in 3D printing, and I just called him. I said, do you know anything about SprintRay? And he like literally quoted off Amir's Kickstarter campaign. He goes, "Yeah, I've been watching those guys." He goes, "They're amazing. Of what they started off with was this Kickstarter. I was looking at that, and then where they're at to now." And then he goes, "Why are you asking about that? Because do you think I'm still at Disney?" He goes, "Oh, just poking around." So it was like literally the two random people both gave mega star reviews on SprintRay, and again being part of this, as Amir said, like Walt was a super disruptive guy, and who would have thought a theme park would have ever done anything. Being at UPS for all those decades, again very disruptive. Like what do you need a package delivery company for? Coming as SprintRay it's so fun. We're literally changing the world of dentistry, which is kind of really cool to be part of it. And for an IE, it doesn't matter. It's like I'm dealing with teeth, and I'm dealing with the processes and the excitement of making things happen. So I'm very proud to be serving Amir and Erich, on this pretty cool journey.
It was a pleasure to have you in the team, Cause, and similar, we're changing the industry. It's very fun and exciting. And Michael, we have more than 100 openings at this point in time. So in our jobs, if you know talent, if you know anyone who's remotely excited from across industries, from across disciplines, across engineering disciplines. So we have more than 100 of them. We're a fun company, essentially changing an industry. Come join us if you're listening to the podcast. And we're going to have fun. All
right. Well, keep having fun. Keep bringing smiles to the world. And any IEs out there looking for a job, you know where to go. Go to Amir and Kaz. They're wanting to hear from you. Gentlemen, thank you very much. This has been a fantastic conversation.
It was cool. A lot of fun. Thank you.
I'll see you in Seattle, Michael.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Problem Solved, the IISE podcast, a production of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers in Metro Atlanta. This podcast is produced by David Brandt, Keith Albertson, and Michael Hughes, and edited by David Brandt. You can listen to all episodes of Problem Solved and learn about sponsorship opportunities by visiting our website, podcast.iise.org. You can also learn more about IISE at the Institute's website, www.iise.org.